Right now, Sukuna is just looking like a complete monster. And the craziest part is, he hasn't even begun to show everything that he has in his bag. The possible elemental powers that he has, his poison, the shrine, his flames, 10 shadows, Yorozu's gift. There is a lot to get into, and there are a lot of reasons why I think Sukuna is actually going to come out on top of this fight, both narratively and power scaling wise. So trust me, if you're a Sukuna fan, you're definitely going to want to strap into this one, guys. And hey, do your boy a solid and leave a like, it does help out, and also subscribe for more JJK content, and also be sure to check out Blzkn for amazing JJK content, especially if you're a Sukuna fan. You know, I'm team Gojo, it is what it is, even though I just said the intro. Blzkn is on that Sukuna's side, and he makes amazing JJK videos, so be sure to check him out. And of course, thank you to the honored one and special members of the channel, Isakai's and that guy Trey. Thank you guys. Alright, so this video is going to be split into two parts. The first part is going to be a small section explaining Sukuna's origins and why he's so powerful and possibly where he got all that. And of course, the biggest second part of the video is going to be all of his abilities, his potential abilities, and crazy theories on that. So you're going to want to stick around for that part.
And without further ado, let's start on his origins. So Sukuna's origins is something that we are all expecting. And because of this, there's a lot of things that have been given as hints to tie into his character. One thing is his first thing at the start of the series, when they're coming back to Jujutsu High, he makes a comment that the hierarchy not based on power is useless, giving us an idea that his mindset is of the standard of the survival of the fittest. It also ties in nicely to him potentially being called the Fallen One, or the Disgraced One as shown as in the Viz translation, and the Fallen One normally assigns to fallen monks. With Angel's disciplined mindset, with Sukuna's hedonism mindset, and then Tengen being the middle path of Buddhism, I feel as if there's a nice connection between the three. I've taken some inspiration from religious influences. This gives us an idea of the differences into how they were shown in their hierarchy, how their mindsets come to pass, and even the origin of how Sukuna has become the calamity that he is now. Being deemed as a calamity, potentially being given offerings from people around him. His whole standing within the society is bounded by his mindset of him being the strongest, which cultivates the need of who Sukuna is. But seeing how that came to pass, seeing how he became that strongest one, the growth, the journey, and everything that could explain by Sukuna can give a nice parallel between someone such as Gojo, who started off as the strongest and then faced challenges to continue that theme of the strongest. This would add to more with their clash right now. It would also cement Sukuna as a more interesting character, especially once all of this is revealed in that flashback.
Everything Blzkn said is pretty spot on, it's actually perfect. But now, what is the connection between Yuji, potentially his twin, and everything that he did in the Heian era as well? So one thing that we know about the Ryomen Sukuna in real life is the whole gist of it, right? The main thing about him is that he's a conjoined twin, because it was a real person who lived in the past. And obviously he was cursed and everything, and that inspired Jujutsu Kaisen. But the main part, the conjoined twin part, we haven't actually seen that yet into Jujutsu Kaisen's own lore, but it is something that we might get answered very soon. And this does also tie into the whole Maki and Mai situation, where twins are actually treated as one, and they can hold each other back, or they can actually ascend the other to great heights. Now, in case you aren't aware, there's a big theory that Sukuna actually ate his conjoined twin in the womb. That's actually why part of Sukuna's face is scarred, or has that weird scar, because even Tengen, who's an ascended human, doesn't have a weird birthmark like that. It's possible that Sukuna had that birthmark even when he was actually a human, before he had ascended past humanity and curses together and became something new, which is very likely. Maybe Sukuna was truly evil in the womb. He was evil from birth, from this very conception, and he ate his twin in the womb, and he was just very powerful from birth. That could explain a lot. But it's possible that Sukuna actually didn't eat his twin in the womb, and whether it's a conjoined twin or a separated twin, actually just ate them and killed them later on in life. Now, the reason I say this is because Sukuna specifically is said to be disgraced or fallen, and to be disgraced, that means before you had been graced or you had been not fallen. I guess that's the best way to say. So what that means is possibly Sukuna may have been a good guy, he may have been a monk, or part of the same group that Angel is part of, right, where they listen to the creed of God. But what if Sukuna, in his quest for power, because he may have been weak in the beginning because of his brother, had actually consumed or ate his brother, making him disgraced in the eyes of God and that creative angel? And that's actually where he got a lot of his power from, where it ties into exactly how Maki got strong as well, but his would be even better because he actually ate his twin. That other part of him, he consumed it. So maybe, and we know Sukuna's a cannibal as well, and there's a whole bunch of theories about maybe Yuji's the other twin, maybe he's like a reincarnation of his twin, or maybe Yuji's the humanity that he discarded because Sukuna doesn't have any humanity in him. There's a lot of theories, and there's a lot of way it ties to Yuji as well, but I've made videos on that before, and it's all just theory based as well. Alright, now that we got the origin part of the way, time to get into the juicy part of the video, his actual abilities, his potential new abilities, and also the current abilities that he has and he hasn't shown. So the first thing I want to bring up is lately I've been seeing a lot of people, especially Sukuna fans, say Cleaviness Mantle isn't his best ability, it's not his strongest, it's not his peak, and it also might be his weakest, which is a really weird tune that these people are saying, because I remember during the Yorozu fight, everyone was saying, oh look, he's not using Cleaviness Mantle, he's only using 10 Shadows, where Cleaviness Mantle is his best ability, but now all of a sudden it's the opposite. And this is something feeling I just really don't agree with. I think Cleave and Dismantle is probably honestly one of the most lethal curse techniques we've seen in the series. It is insanely destructive, and more importantly, it just has high attack power, though maybe not pure destruction per slash, though no, Relentless Shrine is something else. But I just want to say, in my own opinion, obviously I think Cleave and Dismantle, it's one of the strongest things we've seen in the series. I actually think it's very overpowered. But yeah, lately I've been seeing a lot of people say it's not Sukuna's best techniques, or it's not his strongest, which is very odd since it's coming from Sukuna fans. But what about the other techniques that everyone's hyping up? But before we get into that, Blzkn's about to break down the divinity and godlike technique of Sukuna's open barrier and everything that comes of that.
As stated, divine technique is painting a masterpiece without a canvas, basically bringing your domain to life. The recent chapter gave even more stock to how special open domains are, with the fact that the actual representation of the shrine in the middle is more of a metaphorical use, or something that just shows that they're bringing to life their own innate domain, rather than it being something that can actually be effective, which I think was really nice touch, and it gave it to how special open domains are. But I think what takes it to a whole new level is the fact that it seems to be very, very rare across our modern day sorcerers and even our ancient sorcerers. For example, we got the big three clans, and a lot of their techniques were passed down to keep that established power between them. But something such as an open domain, which you'd believe would be something that not only is rare, but a lot of the people just seem to not have any idea. There could be something that was just lost in history, was never really built upon, which gives even more cadence. Doesn't mean it has to be true, there could be others, but more cadence that currently Kenjaku and Sukuna are potentially the only open barrier users, giving the technique to become even more special. But taking that to a new level, we saw Kenjaku being able to inhabit other curse techniques and even the reversal of a curse technique in his domain, and with a lot of the theories of Sukuna having multiple curse techniques or different variations, meaning he can embed these potential curse techniques in his domain as well. So things such as a flame arrow, and I know Kai's about to touch on this, potentially with him becoming the avatar, all these curse techniques can be added, and even something potentially as 10 shadows could be inhabited in his domain, which would give him even more utility and show how special his domain expansion is. And then with his curse energy reinforcement, seems to be ridiculous. Now, depending on how you've seen the clash so far, there is potential of people who believe he tanked Hollow Purple, or not say tanked, he ate Hollow Purple, or he ran away. If you believe he ate it, then that just speaks volumes to his curse energy reinforcement being able to basically only lose one arm and be able to survive the blast. Whether you don't believe it, I mean, there's still a lot of things he's shown within the series to show that his reinforcement is pretty insane. We saw Mahuraga be able to one-tap Yuruzu after the adapting to the domain expansion. Mahuraga sent Sukuna flying through buildings, and he pretty much just laughed it off and got straight back up. It just shows examples of that. Even his efficiency and his whole total curse energy reserve seems to be someone even toppling someone such as Yuta, which means that his whole mastery of Jujutsu is ridiculous. One thing that a lot of people have made assumptions on is the fact that because he's been using things such as domain expansions, reverse curse technique, and etc., going to get to a point where he gets to a point of burnout. But his curse energy efficiency was stated to be relative to Gojo, with Gojo seeming to be better, giving an indication that because of his efficiency, he can reduce the amount of consumption, allowing for him to fight for prolonged periods of time. I think it just speaks volume to his overall Jujutsu mastery, and why back in the Fearsome Womb arc, he told us we don't know what true Jujutsu is, and every time we fight, he gets to show more of that.
See, that's the interesting thing about Sukuna. It's not just in terms of actual raw power, but actual knowledge that he has on Jujutsu and cursed techniques and cursed energies, probably amongst the very best that I've seen. People don't realize it, but Sukuna is probably one of the biggest geniuses we've seen for this kind of thing. But now actually to break down into what he actually could have. So if you guys aren't actually aware, in one of GEGE's previous manga, the main character actually had an ability called Shrine. It was the same box that we saw, well, the same kanji and all that. And what this ability did is that it straight up just opened up weapons, and you can see dozens of weapons actually just coming out of space itself. And this actually does go into the whole theory that maybe Sukuna's Shrine is something that can just store weapons in and take them out, so we actually haven't even begun to see it yet. And it does tie into the whole thing about the ritual where you can actually create cursed weapons out of that, and maybe he has a lot of weapons via the ritual that he's done over time. But what's really interesting is the possibility that instead of just storing weapons, it's actually a storage that he uses for cursed techniques as well. Now, whether he actually just stores cursed techniques that he's actually stolen straight up, or he's actually just borrowing cursed techniques. So for example, let's say with Urume's cursed technique, maybe he makes some sort of binding vow or conditions are met with Urume, and because of this, he can actually access Urume's own cursed technique via the prison realm. So it's Urume's technique, Urume still has the technique, but Sukuna's accessing it. And it's possible that this is what his flames are. It's like a theory of mine where maybe his flames are actually just Urume's curse technique, but use the reversal of curse technique. And it wouldn't be the first time that we see someone use the reverse curse technique, kind of like a main curse technique. I mean, we thought Kenjaku's actual curse technique was gravity for the longest time until he actually pulls out the regular version of it all the way at the very end. But it's possible that via this technique, Sukuna has access to a whole bunch of elements as well. Perhaps via this storage and curse realm, we access other curse techniques, maybe very complex ones, but it could also be very simple ones. For example, maybe some sort of water curse technique, or maybe even lightning as well, or possibly it could actually give into the reason why it's called the King of Poisons too, or at least known as the lethal poison in some other translations. Because this guy has such an odd connection to poisons where even Yuji just being his vessel is immune to all poisons by default, and it doesn't seem like his cursed energy has the properties of poison, so I really do wonder what's going on with there, and he may just show out some crazy poisons where he might actually use to actually defeat Gojo. Or again, it's just like how he might become the Avatar and just pull out all the elements where he's just firing off all the elements at Gojo. And it would also fit nicely because a lot of deities, especially in certain mythologies, such as Japanese and Chinese mythology, actually are able to control all the elements. It's a pretty big thing, so I guess it would also fit into the part of Sukuna being sort of godlike, right? So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what a shrine actually is, and if any of the things that I said may be true.
And I think to give even more stock to what Kaiyo's saying, there is some mythology that gives more stock to the clash between Sukuna and Kashimo. In the Kashimo clash, there is a god that is supposed to symbolize something where they use a thunder type ability to try and defeat, I believe it's Indra. I may be messing up the mythology a little bit. Indra has an ability that would be attacking against this person who goes to fight against a god, which Sukuna has been portrayed as, which fits in nicely with Sukuna and Kashimo. And this thunder ability was something that could, of one time, could destroy this god to make it a competitive fight. One thing that becomes even more interesting, the god that was in question looks exactly like Mahuraga. And now with Sukuna having Mahuraga, potentially having a bow arrow that's supposed to symbolize Indra, and now with Kashimo potentially having a one-time technique which is supposed to defeat this god, seems as if it sets up for not only his arsenal to be expanded upon, for him to play a similar role in the mythology, which will give even more stock to him having more elemental abilities and would fulfill a nice purpose for Kashimo, who would go out potentially destroying Mahuraga and doing some significant damage to Sukuna before he finishes off with that Indra's bow arrow. And then even things such as the callbacks with a 10 Shadows user going back to back with a Limitless user, and with now Sukuna having 10 Shadows, it seems as if all these power-ups not only built up on things called back from the past in the story, but a lot of mythology, which will then grant us to a nice complete story, which we know that GEGE likes to do and reference a lot of outside external things. Now the 10 Shadows is interesting, and me personally, I do believe his default curse technique of Shrine is going to be stronger, especially when we get to see the full arsenal, but still having an ability that has been stated to be relative or a rival to Limitless gives a whole stock to how deep Sukuna's back is. A lot of people will say, well, the curse techniques and the 10 Shadows might not be super effective because of his own arsenal of Shrine. However, his ability to use things such as Mahuraga's will, even giving more curse energy to the regular Shikigami. And I think one thing that a lot of people sleep on is in the similar factor that he put the will of Mahuraga, I believe he could potentially put the will on the other Shikigami, which could give them to a whole new utility and make them a little bit more different. And there is still one more Shikigami yet to come. A lot of people are theorizing is the Gaku Shodo. I believe I said it incorrect. It's a huge skeleton which is supposed to be basically immortal. And I think even if we get something like that, it kind of adds to how special 10 Shadows is and why it has been stated to be a rival to the Limitless.
So yeah, Sukuna has a deep bag of things that we haven't even begun to see yet, and he also does have that Yorozu gift as well. Let's not forget about that. Whether it's a weapon, whether it's something that can actually just straight up maybe even give Sukuna a power up, it could be a whole variety of things, because again, Yorozu Mai's technique can straight up create matter, meaning it really could be anything, but more than likely it could be Sukuna's divine weapon, the spear that we always see him have in some of the cover pages. So if it's that, that would be really cool as well, because we know GEGE has been going pretty much the most straightforward route with everything that's been going on lately. We unseal Gojo, we actually found Angel actually unseals Gojo, Gojo actually fights Sukuna, and just overall everything is pretty straightforward, though it's all been 11 out of 10 great stuff. So maybe it really is just the spear that he always has, something maybe it's just that straightforward. But do you think any of these theories are true, or do you have any of your own theories? But hey, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. It actually does help out the video, thank you if you do. And also be sure to subscribe for more JJK content, and also be sure to check out Blzkn's channel as well in the description, or you can just click his name in the title. Trust me, he makes a ton of great JJK content, especially if you're a Sukuna fan, which you might be if you're watching this video. He's a big Sukuna fan as well, way bigger than me. I'm on that Gojo train, so be sure to check him out if you are. And of course, thank you to all the members of the channel as well. You guys really help out. Thank you guys very much, it's much appreciated.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to drop a like, and if you're at this part of the video, you're part of the Higuruma fan club, so shout out.
Yes, he knows. Shout
yes,
out.
sir.
All right, take care, guys.